Lost Dutchman's gold mine. If you enjoy his content, do us a huge favor and drag and kick the like and subscribe button. Thanks. Enjoy the video. Lost Dutchman's gold mine, also known by similar names as. According to legend, a rich gold mine hidden in the southwestern United States. The location is generally believed to be in the Superstition Mountains, near Apache Junction, east of Phoenix, Arizona. There have been many stories about how to find the mine, and each year people search for the mine. Some have died on the search. 1. Other Lost Dutchman's mines. Though the popular story is often badly garbled from the actual account, other theories have materialized that speculate the mine is buried at the bottom of Apache or Roosevelt Lake. In 1977, Granger identified 62 variants of the Lost Dutchman story. Some of the variations are minor, but others are substantial, casting the story in a very different light from the other versions. Lost Apache Gold or Dr. Thorne's story. As he can carry before again being escorted blindfolded from the site by the Apaches. Thorne is said to be either unwilling or unable to relocate the mine. The truth about the Peralta mine, most likely because Pedro de Peralta had been the Spanish governor of New Mexico in the 1600s. His family name of Peralta was the inspiration for a number of legends in the American Southwest. 8. The mine was quite profitable, earning about $35,000 in less than 1 year. Blair described this as an unusually good return for such a small gold mine to earn in such a relatively brief period. 9. As of 1975, ruins of the Peralta mine were standing. 9. However, the Peralta mine eventually became unprofitable, and after the money was gone, Miguel Peralta turned to fraud. Dr. George M. Willing Jr. paid Peralta $20,000 for the mining rights for an enormous swath of land, about 3 million acres, 12,000 square kilometers, in southern Arizona and New Mexico, based on a deed originally granted by the Spanish Empire in the 18th century. Willing died in 1874 before there had been a thorough investigation of the documents or opportunity to cross-examine him on the stand, as was later done with Rivas. The truth about Dr. Thorne. Thorne claimed that he was taken captive by Navajos in 1854, and that during his captivity he had discovered a rich gold vein. 12. Thorne related his claims to 3 U.S. soldiers in about 1858. 12. The 3 soldiers set out to find the gold, but without success. Over the decades, this tale was gradually absorbed into the Lost Dutchman story. The Lost Dutchman story. This tale involves 2 German men, Jacob Waltz and Jacob Weiser. However, Blair argued that there is a strong likelihood that there never was a second man named Weiser. John D. Wilburn, in his book Dutchman's Lost Ledge of Gold 1990, wrote that the Bulldog Gold Mine near Goldfield, Arizona, fits very well the description Jacob Waltz gave as the location of his lost mine. Furthermore, Wilburn stated that geology indicates that there is no gold in the Superstition Mountains, which are igneous in origin. However, in some versions. 14. The mine is actually a cache put there by the Peraltas. Stories of the soldiers' lost gold vein. This account is usually dated to about 1870. According to Blair, the story may have its roots in the efforts of 3 U.S. soldiers to locate gold in an area of New Mexico, based on an allegedly true story related to them by Dr. Thorne of New Mexico. See above. The historical Jacob Waltz view of Superstition Mountains in Lost Dutchman State Park. Grave of Jacob Waltz, Pioneer and Military Cemetery, west of downtown Phoenix. Blair cited evidence of the historical Jacob Waltz and suggested that additional evidence supports the core elements of the story that Waltz claimed to have. There was indeed a Jacob Waltz who emigrated to the U.S. from Germany. The earliest documentation of him in the U.S. is an 1848 affidavit in which Waltz declared himself to be about 38 years old. 2016, a man called Jacob Wells was born in September 1810 in Rottenburg. Blair suggested that this Waltz could be the same Waltz who later came. Blair had little doubt that Waltz related to Thomas the location of an alleged gold mine. As early as September 1, 1892, the Arizona Enterprise was reporting on the efforts of Thomas and several others to locate the lost mine, whose location was told to her by Waltz. 1920. After this was unsuccessful, Thomas and her partners were reported to be selling maps to the mine for $7 each. The death of Adolf Ruth were it not for the death of amateur explorer and treasure hunter Adolf Ruth, the story of the Lost Dutchman's mine would probably have been little more than a footnote in Arizona history. In a story that echoes some of the earlier tales, Ruth's son Erwin C. Ruth was said to have learned of the Peralta mine from a man called Pedro Gonzalez, or Gonzalez. According to the story, in about 1912, Erwin C. Ruth gave some legal aid to Gonzalez, saving him from almost certain imprisonment. He had metal pins in his leg and used a cane to help him walk. Let alone for the 66-year-old Ruth in the heat of the Arizona summer. However, Ruth ignored Barclay's advice and set out for a 2-week stint in the mountains. Ruth did not return as scheduled, and no trace of him could be found after a brief search. 23. But the map to the Peralta mine was said to be missing. Tantalizingly, Ruth's checkbook was also recovered and proved to contain a note written by Ruth wherein he claimed to have discovered the mine and gave detailed directions. Ruth ended his note with the phrase Veni, Vidi, Vici, 24. Authorities in Arizona did not convene a criminal inquest regarding Ruth's death. They argued that Ruth had probably succumbed to thirst or heart disease, though. As Gentry wrote, only official went so far as to suggest that Adolf Ruth might have committed suicide. 26. Blair wrote that the National Wire Services picked up the story of Ruth's death and ran it for more than it was worth, possibly seeing the mysterious story as a welcome reprieve from the bleak news that was otherwise typical of the Great Depression. 27. Throughout the 20th century, various expeditions and individuals continued to search the superstitions for the Lost Dutchman mine. One of the most professional and serious-minded efforts was led by Oklahoma City private detective Glenn Magel, who organized multiple expeditions in the late 1960s and early 70s and claimed on at least 2 occasions to have identified the location of the mine, later to concede he was either mistaken or the locations were played out or bereft of gold. Magel's adventures were chronicled in the book The Killer Mountains by Kurt Gentry. 28. One fact against the existence of Lost Dutchman mine is that Waltz was a placer miner. While the gold pieces he had were in quartz, the Superstition Mountains are in fact volcanic. Lastly, the alleged mine directions Ruth had were from an 1895 newspaper account. 29. Clarification needed. Other deaths and disappearances added. Since Ruth's death, there have been several other deaths or disappearances in the Superstition Mountains. Some searchers for the mine have disappeared in likely wilderness accidents. January 1933, a mining electrician named J. Tex Bradford of Globe, Arizona, went in search of the Lost Dutchman mine. By October 1933, he had been missing for 9 months. 30. In his 1945 book about the Lost Dutchman's mine, Thunder God's Gold, Barry Storm penned name of John Griffith Clymenson claimed to have narrowly escaped from a mysterious sniper he dubbed Mr. X. Storm further speculated that Adolf Ruth might have been a victim of the same sniper. 31. July 3, 1947, James A. Cravey, age 62, a retired photographer, was reported missing after he had chartered a helicopter June 19, 1947 to drop him off in the Superstition Mountains to look for the Lost Dutchman's mine. Cravey said he would walk out of the mountains on June 28, 1947. 32. In the mid-1940s, the headless remains of prospector James A. Cravey were reportedly discovered in the Superstition Mountains. He had allegedly disappeared after setting out to find the last Dutchman's mine. 33, 34. 35, 36, 37 Capin's body was found in November 2012 by a local search and rescue organization, wedged into a crevice. 38 The program disappeared covered the case, mentioning others in the episode The Dutchman's Curse.